Welcome to the Wealth Transfer with TC. Today I'm going to talk about what's really going to be one of the major causes to cause the global currency reset. Now, the global debt will be one of the major economic events that will cause the governments and the central banks to start the global currency reset. Now, many of you know I've talked about the global debt previously before, and even when it was only at $20 trillion for the United States, right, and that's just government debt, we were all talking about, including the world, that the debt is going to be a major issue and also issue with inflation. Now, looking at this current article here, the global debt reaches a record $226 trillion. That was in 2021. Now, just this past July, the UN warns of soaring global public debt, a record $92 trillion in 2022. All right, it says here about 3.3 billion people now live in countries where debt interest payments are greater than expenditure on health or education. That's almost half the population that are making debt interest payments. And not only making those payments, but it's the greatest expenditure over health and education. This article that just came out on September 19th, it says global debt hits a record 307 trillion. Debt ratios climb. All right, folks, so there's a big problem that is getting ready to explode. People need to be prepared for this. Whether you're invested or not in any of the currencies or anything relating to the stock or the crypto markets, people need to be prepared for this because inflation is just going to, at some point, it's going to explode too as well. And it's already exploding all over the world. And that's the thing that people don't get. Like, you know, inflation is up 100% in other countries. And you know what? Inflation is up 100% in a lot of different areas within our economy. When it comes to energy prices, when it comes to maybe even mortgage payments, some people's mortgage payments have actually doubled. So that means 100%. People can't afford cars. Repos are at its highest. There's a car apocalypse getting ready to happen where people aren't going to have the transportation and people are going to start getting desperate. And with the election coming around, and I've shared with you guys that you know, they're going to try to do everything they can to keep this economy from falling. And depending on who wins, and that might not even make a difference. But if Trump gets in, you know, they'll probably just let the economy go. We still actually have a year and a month before the elections even happen. Do you think things are just going to stay the same? We're going to have some good and we're going to have some bad. And for a lot of people across the world, it's going to be bad. And the news media will do everything else to cover it up. We have all these social issues that they'll be broadcasting on television. Things are already really bad. And if you look at other countries and what happened to other countries when their currency collapsed, you know, the same thing could happen here. And that's why I don't get when people say that the global currency reset or the Iraqi Dinar revaluation is getting ready to take place. I guess October 4th, which is actually today, people were saying that and the gurus that this was the day that it was going to happen. Well, it's Iraqi national holiday. So we've experienced that every year, but people don't understand that you also have the issue of central bank digital currencies. The banks are not ready to do a global currency reset. Things haven't gotten bad enough. And let me share this. If the Iraqi dinar has to meet all these standards to revalue their currency, well, Vietnam has met all those factors. So why haven't they revalued their currency? Or some of these other countries like Thailand, how come they haven't revalued their currency? And I've shared this before, when the news media makes the debt a big issue, and I think they probably won't start doing that depending on who wins in the presidency. Because if it's one side, they're going to completely ignore it just like they have been. If it's the other side, they're going to focus on it. So, and the other thing with rising debt is just inflation is just going to continue to go higher and higher and higher. Now, the numbers that the United States puts out, people, we already know that that's manipulated. Because of the average person, inflation has gone up over 33%. And in some areas, over 100%. You go to the grocery store and spend $100, you're not getting hardly anything for that $100. And I see people on, whether it's on Facebook or in other places, they complain. And it's like, well, it's all about who you vote for and the economic policies, because with this government trying to go green and the UN trying to go green in their 2030 agenda, they're going to push a lot of people out of jobs. They're going to push up more debt because they're printing money like crazy. So it's just a matter of time before things fall apart. So I just want people to be prepared for inflation, to be prepared for a lot of the social issues that come along with inflation and rising debt and people losing their jobs. And along with that, you also have crime going up too as well. And who do we owe this debt to? Central banks don't have $307 trillion to give, because the way that this financial system works, money is created out of thin air. You know, what we're getting ready to head into, you know, this global economic system that you're used to seeing right now, it's never going to be the same after things change. And we're going into a digital system. Now, the global economic system, after we start seeing some of these changes, you know, with the global currency reset, things are never going to be the same. And if you think that the Iraqi dinar is going to revalue before the debt explodes, and I'm talking about going to a rate of 1-to-1 or 3-to-1, mostly everybody's going to lose their money then. Because there has to be, for a reset, an economic collapse. And let me share this one last thing, because people are like, oh, there's no such thing as a monetary reset. And here's some articles here. And this is just from 2023. If you look at every single year, there's always news articles going back 10, 15 years about some type of monetary or global currency reset. So here's 3 articles. The global economy slowdown, motion reset as cheap money era ends. The world has a major debt problem. Is a reset coming? Global debt leverage. Is a great reset coming? They're speculating, financial experts in the media, that the only way to get out of everything is to wipe out all the debt. Here's an article, why controlling global debt leverage requires a great reset. There's no easy way out. Okay, and the GDP is expected to increase by 366%. And currently, we're at 123%. Right, so this is not good. And you could go to the U.S. debt clock and you see like the amount of debt, private debt, student debt. You know, people talk about the $33 trillion the government is in debt. Well, student loans are almost at $2 trillion. Credit card debt, $1.3 trillion. A total of personal debt is $24 trillion. The interest per adult is $14,771. That's insane. That's per adult here in the U.S. The debt per taxpayer is $257,000. That is absolutely insane. And you know, there's a big gap. So there's a deficit every year currently of $1.7 trillion. That's only expected to grow. And you can see with the way the economy is going, and they're pumping money to Ukraine. And when the economy starts to really get bad, they're going to have to pump more money. And it says here that the total U.S. debt is $103 trillion. And I just read an article where it talks about global debt hits $307 trillion. And actually, it could be way more than that. They could just be hiding things. But when the United States in general, public and private, owes $100 trillion, there's only one way to get out of that situation. And they're going to continue to run it until they can't run it anymore. That's when the global currency reset is going to take place. That's when there's going to be this major launch with central bank digital currencies. Right? Other countries are doing it, but I'm talking about like a major launch with a rate change. So anyways, folks, that is all that I have for today. I thank you guys for listening. God bless. TC out.